Okay, so it seems like recently there's been a lot of different responses to the whole Leaflet AI PNG tuber model thing, whatever you want to call it, right? Essentially, we covered this in the last video and the video before that. Essentially, yeah, Leaflet has been working on a tool that creates a PNG tuber that also has some animations and stuff for essentially VTubers that are getting started and can't afford a big flashy model and whatever. And of course, this is the VTubing community. It's had mixed reactions. Some people obviously love it and think it's an easier way to get into VTubing. Some people hate it and don't want it to be a part of it at all, right? And I think it is fair either side, right? But again, obviously a lot of people have been talking about it though due to this, and we've covered a lot of bigger VTubers talking about it, including ChaChaYourVmom. She made a video talking about that and how it could affect things in terms of the algorithm, but also as well, SquChan has also been talking about it, which has been pretty interesting, and there's been a lot of quotes and stuff like that which have been pretty angry at her as well. So yeah, let's just take a look. Obviously, this says, finally an artist with a rational take on AR in VTubing, and this is what she says, and obviously she is an artist herself, so it's pretty interesting, right?
Literally have a
I'll be honest, I personally wouldn't use this, but do you think it's fair that when you're trying to start out as a streamer, you have to pay over $10,000 just to have a chance at having a model? Or sure, you can buy it for you can buy a pre-made one, but that's a pre-made one. Everyone and their mother using it. You wanna have a chance to be unique. You don't want to be fucking, I don't know, Suika Avatar 9999, right? You want to be your own person. But the thing is that just the art, mind you, from a mid artist, not like a good one, is going to be at least 1,000, if not 2,000. And then you have to get that rigged. A good rigger who is not going to give you like a HoloLive rhombus is going to be at least 2,000 as well. At least. Listen, Filian is an amazing streamer, but look at her. Even she got trouble. She wanted to get her Nandroid and she couldn't. Because the artist who made that pre-made avatar didn't agree. So it's not good for her either. Why do you think she probably has to do this whole rebranding or whatever? If she's coming back, it's going to be probably with a brand new avatar that can be finally her own.
PNG still.
But yeah, I think that there are some good points there, right? It's essentially the fact of, hey, there's a lot of pre-made VTuber models out there that people tend to use when they get started with VTubing because it's cheaper and it's sometimes even free. Some people release theirs for free, and usually they have little toggles and sliders where you can change it slightly, but at the end of the day, it tends to be, yeah, as she says, like VTuber number 352 that looks exactly the same, right? And it's not very unique, and I don't think it is the best chance you have at starting out as being a VTuber, right? Of course, it is a fix for the time being for whenever you want to get your own one. But as she mentions with people like Filian, it can be quite hard as if you do get attention with that model, right? And somehow, people actually pick up on it through your personality or your content or whatever, regardless of the model, and you want to do cool stuff in the future. For example, she mentions the Nendroid with Filian. Well, of course, you're not going to be able to do that because the artist obviously owns your kind of likeness and all of this kind of stuff, which again can be a problem for some people that maybe want to get into VTubing because they want to own their stuff and they want to become recognizable through their own model, because there's kind of to me it feels like there's no point in personally I think there's no point in kind of using a pre-made one that everybody else has. I think if you want to make a cheap one on Vroid or something like that, that's unique and you kind of fiddled around with some of the kind of design choices, that's cool, right? Obviously that's a free way to do it, but the pre-made ones that I'm talking about that a lot of people tend to have the same looking model, I think sometimes to me it feels like a bit of a waste of time, because at the end of the day you're not going to be able to do anything with that model, right? You're not going to be able to create merch with it, you're not going to be able to do figures or anything with it if you got to that level of hugeness, right? So but again, I can also see at the same time there also being the factor of you can maybe build up the money with that model and then get that separate model. But then obviously if you get up to the point where you're making enough money with that, you know, original model, you've already built up kind of an audience that, you know, kind of knows that face, that kind of VTuber model and that style. So it'd be kind of hard to break away from that. You know, if you were to suddenly switch the style of your VTuber, and it tends to have a big effect. I've seen many VTubers do it, by the way. They use like cheaper models or whatever, and then they decide to completely change their model, like 100%, like doesn't even look like the same thing. And they tend to lose a lot of viewership because people don't recognize them anymore, right? Even if their voice sounds the same. People said you could easily get a good model for 2.5k. There's tons of artists overseas that doesn't charge much for models. There's a whole group of people that will tell you this is wrong as well. But at this point, I think I think Versus AI, they won't comment anymore. Saying though she's speaking mainly from the perspective of an already established streamer willing to up their game and truly invest, rather than the layman streamer, her numbers suggest at least 1,000 or 2,000 is a bit off for VTubers to get started. That's so much money. It legitimately must be a named top rigger. You really don't have to invest that much money to succeed. And thank God we have a marketplace, because you can legitimately find riggers on VGen that optimize their setup so much that they can rig your baby in 24 hours, and they'll only bill you like $150 in the end. You still need the model art though, ready for rigging. It's really about how much you value your time and quality with convenience. Desperate folks, much like the homeless, scrape off and try make of whatever they can. They have to invest. I do agree that the commercial rights thing, that's practically a must, and those usually cost you at least 2 times the price of the model itself. So yeah, I mean, it is like a kind of little debate, a little kind of I guess what do you call it, discussion that people have had going on. You know, obviously Dark there saying like essentially VTubing is starting to get a little bit cheaper maybe with the whole kind of VGen stuff that has been going around. So that is also something that maybe you can talk about. I think it's a shame that bad artists have so many to rethink their needs, because of a few of them have blown tantrums and tried to make public blacklists for people who used AI, either knowingly or unknowingly. No shit, many people can't afford those enormous costs. You pay for quality, but when those prices exist, people are going to find alternatives that are cheaper. So using AI art will harm your chances of gaining traction rather than helping them, and will leave a stain that can't be hidden. Plus, plus will most likely put off artists from wanting to take commissions of a VTuber who previously used AI art. And that is something that maybe I haven't really discussed in terms of this topic as well, right? In terms of like the Leaflet thing, in terms of the PNG tuber, and if you were to use this program, right? Don't get me wrong, I think it's a cool thing, right? I think it's definitely interesting. But I think with the kind of state that the VTubing space is in, you will, if you do decide to use this tool or whatever that Leaflet has gotten, the reality is that you are going to be blacklisted. You are going to be, people aren't going to want to hang out with you as much. People aren't going to want to do art for you as much. And again, it is one of those things that maybe some people don't, kind of consider whenever it comes to this. Now, it's always an argument of, should this be the case or not? You can make up your own mind on that, right? And it's not like saying that you shouldn't use this, but I think there are the kind of precursors to this, just saying like, hey, if you are going to use a tool like this, using the AI things that people can very clearly see is AI generated, some people aren't going to want to hang out with you, and that's just how it is, right? And again, you can be upset about that. That's fine or whatever, right? But again, it is just the reality of the space, and a lot of people. It's the same with like artists and all of this kind of stuff. They're not going to want to work with you because of that. So again, I do think that is something that maybe some people don't consider with that too. And obviously that's not necessarily a problem with the quality of the program or anything like that. It's just more so to do with how people work socially and things like that, right? So yeah, obviously a lot of people have been commenting on the SquChan kind of comment thing. Also another thing, Fillion got in trouble because she stole the model, not because she used it. She ripped it, she stole it, she admitted to it on video. She did not have a license for it. It was a pay to use avatar she stole and recorded illegally. She bragged about it. The right-wing VTubing fans openly admit they're siding against the majority of artists who made this industry. Their open beliefs is that artists deserve less, often less than minimum wage, and their main allies are people making bank off of abrupt pivots to right-wing content, which again, I I don't know what that has to do with right-wing content, but okay. And of course, you know, as well, also just to mention, going back to the whole, you know, people aren't going to want to interact with you or anything. There is also a group of people that will want to interact with you. Just to kind of make that clear, I didn't really make that clear earlier. There is obviously going to be a space of other people that are also using the similar program or don't care or whatever. But again, just to kind of, you know, I would say that's more so of a minority of people within the community rather than the majority. So just to, yeah, that's just also another thing. Yeah, people saying, A, Fillion got in trouble because she stole the model and design. B, there are so many artists that are good as she put it that as she put it that are way cheaper than that. Am I stupid, or does that, as she put it that are way cheaper than that? Okay, fine. Yeah, I hate when people talk about things they know nothing about or insanely biased, so they omit information for their case, saying that's nice. Anyways, here's a list of affordable human VTuber artists to support. So obviously they put a bunch of artists that are maybe cheaper, but you don't have to spend 10k when you start out, or ever, to be honest. That's a choice and it doesn't guarantee success. When I just started out, I had no money to spend on a model, but I wanted so bad, so I learned how to make a model with VRoid for free, and obviously I mentioned that earlier. So today, all my paid models together don't even cost 10k. So yeah, obviously they are saying like, hey, they've got a model, and again, I don't know who this VTuber is. Okay, they got quite a nice model. So again, they haven't spent 10k for their models combined. And again, maybe, you know, I think it's one of those things where I think she was just kind of speaking. I don't think she actually did the research on exactly, you know, what the cheapest model price is in the current day and age in VTubing, right? Obviously she just threw out 10k there. Now, again, I don't think you need 10k to get a VTubing model. I think you can get them for much cheaper now. You know, maybe it was that way a while back, but again, it doesn't cost 10k anymore. But I think that, you know, of course, if you want a very, very good one, then yes, I think it will cost 10k. But to be honest, once you get to that point, you probably have the money to spend on it, right? If you are looking to make those kind of significant upgrades for the 10k, you know, costing VTuber models, then yeah, you're probably going to be making bank at that point because you believe it's time to upgrade. And if you're not, well, you know, that's kind of you know, you got to improve the content first, maybe, before the VTuber model, right? But of course, you know, still, you know, there's a lot of good kind of models will probably, you know, I would say cost you around about above 1,000 to 2,000, right? I got a model for about 1,000, a little bit less than 1,000, and it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. It was unique. It was unique at the minimum, right? So I think that was fine. It definitely could have been a lot better. I would have, you know, enjoyed it to be a lot better. But of course, you know, that would have costed a lot more, right? So again, you know, that is just to kind of, I guess, talk about the reality of the prices of VTubing, you know, models and whatnot. A lot of people have been talking about it because SquChan weighs in on AI art in VTubing and adds fuel to the debate, saying, nah, I'd rather watch a PNG tuber drawn by a person than an AI generated live 2D or 3D. I'd rather watch a VTuber who has no face cam than stare at an AI generated image. Tons of streamers do it, and if as a VTuber they think nobody will watch them without a crazy model, maybe they need to reconsider why they should be a streamer in the first place. And yeah, I think that's interesting. Is this the same?
I personally,
yeah, it's the same tweet. So funny to see this fallacy of you need 10k model to ever have a chance. It is still working on some desperate fools entering the fray. It's been pushed by scammers who are using pre-made and AI-made models to bill multiple thousands of dollars to aspiring streamers who are panicking because it's been 6 months and they're still below 20 viewers CCV. The reality of VTubing is that the pandemic lockdown ended a long time ago, and the total viewership hasn't been growing much, if at all, ever since. This is why most smaller corporations shut down. This is why major corporations have drastically slowed down new waves and reduced their overall pool of streamers by getting rid of underperforming ones. Meanwhile, we have people who saw Gura and the likes making it big 2 years ago at the peak of Western VTubing and imagine that they could easily be the next superstar or at least 300k subs, 1k CCV one. But this is not going to happen. Viewership didn't grow. Most superstars are either still in their corpo or reincarnated as indies and retained most of their active viewership. What's left for newcomers are mere crumbs, a tiny amount of viewers, and a tiny amount of viewers moving from one Oshi to another. Having said that, people can still grow a channel over a minimum of 2 years of mindless grinding. But what's going to push the channel is channel towards new eyes are not advanced L2D models, which again is true. I think that, you know, the biggest factor within VTubing now is, you know, I would say that honestly there should be like a pie chart or something, or some kind of you know, chart to show you the kind of levels of what people are talking about. But you know, this is how much you know, kind of VTubing or like VTuber models you know, matter, right, compared to this, which is like everything else, right? I feel like the VTuber model does matter somewhat. You need a recognizable one. I think that if you can get a unique one for a cheap price, and one that, you know, not everybody's using, like you can't just like, if you were to go live with like the ones that you get on like VTube Studio, like the default ones, nobody's going to recognize you. I feel like there's no point in trying, right? But I do think that if you were to get like a cheap one, or maybe, you know, even if you do get one of those customizable ones that are like, you can customize what it looks like, you can actually, you know, kind of succeed, and all of that, as long as you make it look unique and you have something that you could potentially turn into a better model into the future, right? Because, you know, you kind of got to have an idea in your head of like, what kind of VTuber do I want to be? What do I want my model to look like in the future when I can afford it? And then essentially, you know, you can pick one of those customizable ones where you can change the hair color and whatever, kind of create it as close to whatever you want. It might not be perfect, but at least then you can kind of build off of that and make a better VTuber in the future if your content does take off. And then if your content does take, or no, to get your content to take off, as they mentioned down here, you're going to need clips, you're going to need content, you're going to need YouTube videos, you're going to need streams, you're going to need literally everything, and you're going to need to throw yourself at it, right? You can't just go live as a VTuber every now and again and just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go live. No, you've actually got to do clips, you've actually got to do all of this kind of stuff associated with it, and that's how you grow. Your VTuber model isn't going to be how you grow, as long as it looks unique, as long as it is something that people can recognize, you know, and is, you know, something a little bit different, then you're going to be fine, right? As long as you're, you know, the only thing that's kind of important here is the content that you do and how much you are uploading that content. So again, and that's the same for every streamer. That's not even just VTubers, by the way. That's literally everybody. So again, I think a lot of people do place a lot of weight on your VTuber model looking the best, and that's why even something like this program could work for some people, to be honest. Like, on the contrary of, you know, obviously I know there's supposed to be kind of a point against this, but I think that that's why a VTuber model like this could also work, because it's unique enough. It's not perfect, but I do think that, you know, it will intrigue some people, right? So again, I think that it is a very interesting debate that has been going around. There's been lots of different points being brought up in terms of VTubers and, you know, how you can really grow, whether, you know, you should be using a tool like this, how much VTubing models actually cost. You know, people say, who is paying 10K? What a ripoff. So again, it is pretty interesting, right? But yeah, I mean, that's essentially all there is for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameStop, use my code Kazo, get 10% off. Again, they got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. So yeah.